to class. This is AGR 201 General Agriculture, and this is the Unit 1 of this course. At the end of this course, you'll be able to define agriculture and economy and how agriculture is important to the development of the economy, as well as different areas and scope of agriculture. So have you ever imagined a world without food, shelter, clothes, industries? That would be a world without agriculture, and it's almost unimaginable. So inside this course, we'll be taking you on a journey ride to define agriculture and the scope of agriculture. Moving on, my name is Alawudi Yetunde, and this topic is the meaning and scope of agriculture. My email also is yalawudi@noun.edu.ng. So starting off, what is the definition of agriculture? Agriculture can be defined in various ways. It is an art, science, and business of producing crops, rearing animals, and processing products for human use. Agriculture also can be the art, science, and business of cultivating crops, rearing animals, and processing natural resources to produce food, fiber, fuel, and other products essential for human life. So, in simple terms, agriculture includes all activities that can be used on land, water, plants, and animals to satisfy human needs. So, what are the key points of agriculture? It is an art. That means it's a skillful practice. It is a science which requires the application of scientific knowledge, and it's also a business for production and for profit. So gone are the days when they say agricultural farmers are paupers. Agriculture is a business venture. Moving on, we want to define the economy. An economy is simply refers to the system by which goods and services are produced and distributed, and it also includes all activities related to production, exchange, distribution, and consumption of wealth. So, by simple definition, the economy is how a country or region organizes its money, resources, jobs, trades, and industries. What are the key points to note about the economy? It involves people's livelihood. It also includes sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and services. And it operates through markets, government interventions, and international trade. So moving on, we want to talk about economic development. Economic development is a process by which a nation improves the economic, political, and social well-being of its people. It usually involves increase in income levels, employment opportunities, improved infrastructure, education, healthcare, and higher standard of living. So how do you know an economy is developing? When you have increase in income, employment opportunities, improved infrastructure, talking about good roads, good hospitals, drinking water, food, then quality education as well as healthcare. You don't have to go to the hospital and then be delayed for hours before being attended to. All the equipment, they are all present, and also high standard of living. That is how you know an economy is developing. In simple terms, economic development means making a country richer, stronger, and better for its people over time. So now, after defining agriculture and then talking about the economy and economic development, we now know that there's a relationship between agriculture and economic development. So now we want to go into the major areas under the scope of agriculture. Of course, agriculture is a broad field. It's not just crop production or animal production. It involves various activities related to production, management, processing, and distribution of plants, animals, as well as natural resources. So the major areas under the scope of agriculture are: number one, crop production. Crop production is the cultivation of food crops. Food crops, when we mean food crops, they are crops that are the basic food crops that we see every day: maize, rice, cassava, yam, what have you. Or cash crops, so you could either be a food crop farmer or a cash crop farmer. When you're saying cash crop, you are saying crops that bring revenue to the country, talking about economic development here. And we talk about crops like cocoa, cotton, oil palm. And crop production also involves activities like land preparation, planting, weeding, fertilizing, pest control, and harvesting. So the goal of every crop production person is to produce food, crops for food, raw materials, as well as income. The next one we'll be talking about is animal husbandry. And animal husbandry, of course, for the animal scientist, it talks about rearing of livestock such as cattle, sheep, goats, poultry, dogs, pigs, and fish. And the main focus here is on breeding or multiplication, feeding, health management, processing of animal products like meat, milk, eggs, wool, and leather. We all know that animals are an essential and major source of protein. So they provide protein as well as raw materials for industry like your leather. Of course, moving on, we want to talk about forestry. And forestry means management and conservation as well as sustainable use of forest and woodland. So when you talk forestry, you're talking of woodlands. So it involves the production of timber, fuel wood, fruits, medicinal plants, and also maintaining the biodiversity, talking about the species, animal species, bacterial species of the forest. Of course, the forest also protects the environment against erosion, supports climate regulation, and provides economic benefits. Because we know these days that our forests have been lost to civilization. So there are a lot of natural disasters everywhere. You talk about flood, you talk about tsunami, and all that is due to the um, tampering of biodiversity. So forest talks about the management and conservation of the forest and woodlands. Moving on, we have yet another scope in fisheries. And fisheries is the cultivation and harvesting of fish and other aquatic organisms from either fresh waters like the rivers and lakes or salt waters like the oceans and sea environment. Supplies of fish, crustaceans, the shellfish, the mollusk for food and industrial uses. That is what fisheries is all about. It's also a major scope in agriculture. Now, another one here is agricultural engineering, and this involves the application of engineering principles and technologies to improve farming operations. And when you talk about mechanization, because these days agriculture is not just about hoe and cutlass, you have to go mechanize it, you have to go machine the machine way for easier work. And you're talking about using tractors, planters, harvesters, and a solid irrigation and drainage system, as well as solid farm structures in the name of barns, silos for handling the post-harvest losses. So this is in the picture here, you can see a tractor and a combined harvester. So another important point here is soil science. And this is basically the study of soil properties and management for optimal growth. Soil science focuses on soil fertility, conservation, and land evaluation, as well as combating soil degradation, talking about erosion and salinity. So you want to know what are the properties of the soil that I want to put my crops in. Which soil, which crop is most suitable for which soil. So that is the work of the soil scientist. Now, we want to talk about agricultural economics and agribusiness. This is the business aspect of agriculture, and it simply talks about the application of economic principles to farming and agribusiness operations. This involves farm management, marketing of agricultural products, agricultural finance, price analysis, and rural development strategies. Talking rural development now, that's the next major scope of agriculture, agricultural extension, and rural development. And this, because we know that most of the agriculture occurs in the rural areas. So what you do in this case is that you educate and support services provided to farmers to encourage them to adopt the new technologies or improved farming systems that we have already worked on as researchers. We want them to embrace it to make agriculture better for them and more fun. And it also involves the training programs. How do you do that? You expose them to training programs, demonstration fields, field visits, as well as community development initiatives. You can hardly see farms in the city. So most of the farms are in the rural areas. So that's why they need all the support. So there are some experts that work on that. They are agricultural extensionists. And of course, we cannot talk agriculture without talking about agro processing and value addition. This simply talks about transformation of raw agricultural products to finished or semi-finished goods. If you sell your products at the raw stage, you want to agree with me that you may not command the kind of price that you are looking for if you sell them raw compared to if you sell them as a finished product. So when you're transforming your raw materials into finished products, you increase the shelf value, the marketability of these agricultural products. For example, selling your cassava tubers fresh because they can easily go bad. So you sell them at any price the farmers or the consumers are willing to buy. But if you convert your cassava to garri, garri has a longer shelf life and you get more value for your garri than selling it in cassava. So also for fresh milk, when you process fresh milk into cheese, it commands a higher price than just selling your fresh milk like that. And in the case of tomatoes, you all know that there comes a time when tomatoes are very, very scarce. So we all fall back on our puree, which is canned tomato that has been processed and the shelf life is also increased. So this agro-processing increases shelf life, increases the value of your produce and marketability of agricultural products. All you need is a very good marketing strategy and packaging strategy. So agroforestry also is another one, and it involves integrated approach of combining agriculture and forestry on the same land unit. So in the forest, the distance between one tree and the other is usually large, such that the space in between can also be used to cultivate other crops. That is agroforestry. Like you can see in the picture here, there's a banana plantation inside the forest. So you are making more income from those products, and as at the same time it enhances biodiversity, soil fertility, and provides multiple products like timber, fruits, and fodder for your animals. So agroforestry is also a major scope of agriculture. In conclusion, agriculture is no longer limited to just growing crops or rearing animals. It covers a wide range of activities that contribute to food security, industrial development, environmental management, as well as rural prosperity. I hope you enjoyed this class, and I'll love to see you in the next class very soon. Thank you very much, and God bless.